What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Hope you're all doing well today. It's been a hot minute since I've shoved some MX Simulator gameplay down your throats. We are on a new JGMX track and there's really not much that gives me that little tingly feeling in the pants, quite like loading up the sim forums and seeing the JGMX has posted something new. So this is the Seabolt compound, that is Mr. Jeremiah Seabolt. Those of you who are aware of the sim community as a whole know exactly who he is, and apparently this track was meant to be done back in 2018. But he just never got around to completing it. So the time's finally come. He's updated it a bunch with his like modern day track building techniques, I guess. Changed the rough and the ruts and built this very pretty looking thing that we've got here. So it's got a motocross and a supercross track in it, both of which I'll be covering in this video. And I'm interested to see how it goes because from the pictures, it looks like it's a bit of a more, I think realistic isn't the right word to use, I don't think. I mean, there's just a bit of rough and ruts, like more so than a lot of his quote-unquote fun tracks, you know, the tracks that are just wide open everywhere with no real rough. You've not got to slow down at all. A lot of elevation on the MX track here, so that'll be interesting. Sometimes elevation's a bit of a difficult one in this game sometimes, because if you're playing first person, usually you're A-okay. If you're playing third person, like myself and the majority of the community, you tend to not actually be able to see to the top of the hills. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes. We'll see if there's any particularly tricky areas. If you've been putting off buying that new MX gear or you're just looking for some new daily MX related clothing, then head on over to fxrracing.com. Code MXPR_Lins15 at checkout will give you 15% off all motocross and lifestyle products. This code is applicable to the European, Swedish and Norwegian websites, not Canada or the USA. And whilst I've got your attention, you may as well subscribe to the channel. It's just one click of a button and it puts a big old smile on my face. Hope you enjoy the rest of the video. No track map in typical JGMX fashion. However, I think I did see that someone made their own track map for it and posted it on the forums. I just didn't download it because, you know what, I'm lazy like that. Like things like this, you don't get this sort of rough going into these corners on most of his tracks, but I'm here for it. I love it. Braking on rough stuff, or at least slowing down on rough stuff in general, doing it at a decent pace is something I really struggle with on sim. I mean, I'm not like going sim full times by any means, but I dabble in it every now and then. I do the occasional competitive RF race here or there, and I really think that's where I lose the majority of my time, is trying to be fast through braking bumps or just kind of making my transition from accelerating to actually getting in the corner as quick as possible. And it's something that I never used to struggle on. I don't know if it's a case of like track making techniques have changed a little bit over the years, so it's a bit more difficult now than it used to be, or maybe I've just kind of lost my touch. For whatever reason now, I mean, even if I hit a section really good, you know, I managed to get over all the bumps A-okay, I could come around the next lap, feel like I hit it exactly the same, but then end up getting a random kick and cartwheeling to my death. And you know how long a crash takes in this game. Like once you've finally finished cartwheeling, then you have to lay there and think about what you've done for like 7 to 10 seconds, depending on how brutal the crash was. And it can be a bit of a frustrating experience. I mean, it's one of the things that it does force you to slow down a bit, at least. I know if I'm in like a racing scenario, if I'm in an actual race and there's a downhill that maybe has been ruining a third of my qualifying laps, you know full well I'm absolutely tiptoeing down that hill. I'm not risking getting a crash and like possibly wasting 7 to 15 seconds total, depending on how long you've been cartwheeling for. So I need practice on it, so I really don't mind when people release custom tracks with this sort of rough. I'm here for it. And one thing, you know, that I really wish that we could do a bit more on bikes was have more ruts in corners. With how bikes work, the ruts have to be scaled a little bit bigger, because if you have super narrow ruts in bikes, they get really choppy, like really jagged edges, and the bikes don't sit them in too well. They'll have tendency just to fling out. You could even get the occasional game crash as well with like a really skinny rut. So they tend to have to be a bit girthier, a bit on the fatter side. Not so much in terms of height, but in terms of the width, they've got to be like rounded off a little bit more. That's not really so much the case in sim. You can have a hell of a lot of ruts within the same sort of space. I know a lot of it comes down to what size height map you use. Like bigger the height map, the more definition you can get. Then that also comes with its own like performance issues. Like the higher the height map, the worse your FPS is going to be. I know, for example, for my MX Bikes viewers, if you've done much of the Supercross season this year, you'll notice that the last couple of rounds of the season, the tracks were a little bit laggier. and the ruts that form with the erode were a little bit skinnier than previous rounds. Reason being is Stone Rider used a bigger height map than he usually would. I don't know if he went from like 2K to 4K or 4K to 8K, etc. But all I know is he used a bigger one, higher resolution. So it comes with its pros, but it also does come with its cons. But I think it would make for really, really good racing overall if we could have some slightly skinnier ruts and the game actually rode well on them, because making them's one thing. Like, you can 100% make them. I've seen screenshots of tracks where people have made a bunch of skinny ruts side by side, and it looks good, but I don't think it would ride very good. So that's kind of my little gripe at the moment. I feel like I always do this when I hop on sim. I'm like, oh, maybe bikes could do this better, bikes could do that better, and then it's kind of vice versa. There's like some things on sim that I wish did better, like the first person camera, for example. Yeah, there's enough random waffling. Let's get back to the track. Let's talk about the track. So, I did see someone have a little complaint about apparently JGMX always uses the same decals all the time, which he clapped back with an amazing response, by the way. So, hats off to you, sir. He says, well, I've made over 100 tracks in this game. It's hard not to use the same decals on a few of them, which, first of all, big W. Then he also said that if the decals look good, why change it? Which, again, I think these decals are very, very pretty. In terms of MX Simulator decals, that is, they look good. I need to try and really work out how to get the reshade working on this game. I've tried multiple ways, like installing it in different file paths, giving it like admin access and all this stuff, and for whatever reason, it either doesn't work at all, or it works for the one session, and then when I close and reopen the game, it's gone completely back to default again, like it won't save any presets. So at some point, I need to look into that. I might see if I can recruit someone to help me, make my life easier, stop me having to use any brain power. Because I do agree, two of the biggest things that I think hold this game back from having an even bigger player base than it does now, and also it kind of stops a lot of YouTube views. And you know me, being a YouTuber, views matter a lot to me. Is A, the way the game looks. It's very PS1, PS2-ish, and then the bike sounds. I wish this game had better bike sounds, man. I'm guessing it's just a case of how the engine sounds are mixed together. Makes it very, very difficult to replicate that with like different real life audio. Not too sure. All I know is there's a hell of a lot of bike sound mods on MX bikes, and there is, I think, like one replacement pack on MX Simulator. Maybe there's just nobody in the community that's had a proper go of tackling it yet. I have no idea, but what I do know is there is always some very, very knowledgeable people in my comments about these sort of subjects, a lot of die-hard sim fans as well, that I'm sure could shine some light on that subject for me. I was informed not that long ago, so I do believe it to be true, that JLV, the creator of MX Simulator, stated that when he's essentially finished creating this game, whenever that day may be, whenever he sees it as a final product that he has perfected and doesn't want to work on anymore, he's going to release it as like open source, open files for anybody to do what they want with, which I think is kind of cool. So maybe in a couple years' time we could end up getting like an even better version of Sim once some other creative hands have got their hands on it and turned it into something else. It could also be a bad thing, you know. We could just end up. I don't know how deep that goes in regards to releasing the files. You could just get a bunch of people cheating all the time because they found ways out of modding the game to their liking. But it could end up being some really good fun stuff. So the future of MX Simulator, it might not be dead after all. I think there's not much of a casual community on this game anymore these days. A lot of it does seem to be the competitive side of things. I remember, like, back in the day, I'll make it sound like I'm 50 years old. I mean, I'm getting there, to be fair. I'm closer to 50 than I am to 0, so that gives you an idea of how old I am. And you used to be able to go on the MX Simulator server list, and there'd always be something popping, you know, just random lobbies going off all the time. There's not so much of that these days anymore, and the majority of the lobbies that are up are just servers that are practicing, like, for outdoors, for example, for the competitive outdoors series. So I kind of miss those days. I miss being able to hop in, like, the stock server, for example, and the stock server be absolutely full of people. Maybe that's an idea for a live stream in the future, is just getting everyone on and grinding out the stock tracks, get that full up. Well, I can imagine that getting toxic in a hurry. You know, the sim community, well, it's going to have a special place in my heart for obvious reasons. It was a big part of my life for a good number of years. But boys, we have to admit, you can be so toxic, it's unreal. The exact reason why I tend to have chat off in game, just so I don't get demonetized at all. But there you go. we've done there. We're on lap 4. We've done 3 laps of that outdoors track. Very, very nice and flowy. Lots of elevation changes. I think if I spent a little bit more time and run a bunch more laps to memorise what is at the top of all the different hills, I think I could probably run some absolutely barker laps around there. But I do think that's probably one of my favourite outdoor tracks that JGMX has ever created. So, I mean, you don't need my approval. He gets approval from everybody on the forums all the time, because everyone's got nothing but good things to say about his tracks. I have no idea how he managed to pump out so many tracks on such a consistent basis. I mean, like he said, he's done over 100 tracks for this game, which, to put that into hours, I don't understand. I don't get it, unless he just got some really good templates that he uses to, like, for jump faces and things like that. Let's see. Oh, this isn't just an... Okay, it's not a normal Supercross track. It's a hybrid. I see. I did not know that. I thought it was just straight up Supercross. The scaling feels a little bit on the small side. I'm wondering if the 450 might be a bit overkill here. It will certainly help me try and get some of these like triples out of the corners, so we'll see how she goes. This is a small double I just saw as we was going the other side. No, it's not. I didn't see the third part. Ah, look, the suspension, taking it like a champ. Thank you very much, Mr. Braden Carter, for giving me your suspension. Also, pause. I forget this. Everyone always asks every single sim video that I do. Feel free to pause the video. There's my settings page 1. There is my current suspension and rider vertical and all that good stuff. And there is my advanced stability. Feel free to copy it. Do what you want. Because I get so many people asking for my sim setup, and I always wonder why, because I'm not good at this game. There's people out there that are a lot faster than me that also have setup videos, but people still ask. So ask and you shall receive. If you've made it to this point in the video, then W, you've got it. If I still see in the comments, what's your setup, I know that you've not made it this far, so shame on you. You'll be met with a watch the video as a reply. How's that? How'd you like that? How'd you like them apples? This is the sort of Supercross bits I like though, just out of the corner, on off, like really fast-paced 180 bowl turns. Not a fan of flat corners these days anymore because I have massive skill issues. Go over that triple. Oh, not quite. Go over that's fine. I managed to buff that out. I love like the seat bouncing mechanic in Sim. It's so easy just to really like smoothly wind on the power coming out of a bowl turn on the 450s, and just give it a little bit of a hump, and you quite easily get up and over the triples. Okay, I've just jinxed myself. I'm doing that again. I will not be beaten. I'm guessing I was just going too slow, unless maybe that's not even meant to be tripled into. It was quite far away. There we go, that's better. So we go triple, triple. This is a long one. Jesus, triple, triple. I 100% can bust out some quads during this. I'm just scared of doing it and getting her legs off. I hate laying on the floor thinking about what I've done wrong for such a long amount of time on this game. I'm very surprised that I know obviously you can go in time trial and you can reset to the very last timing gate on the track. I'm surprised he's not made a mode where you can just like insta respawn where you are. I'm very, very surprised, especially with how long the game's been out. I don't think I've actually seen many people request a feature like that either. You get backflip, pump it. Yes, you come around no problem. Little quad into the corner. Skirt! What I also love about Sim as well, sorry, more ranting about the differences between Sim and bikes, I shouldn't do it, but I love how you can actually like cut down on the power in corners, like turn with the back end. Whereas if you do that on bikes, you just don't move anywhere. You get zero traction. A lot of the time the back wheel will just come all the way around. Like you can't actually steer with the back end properly, which is a shame. There's been multiple like eras on Sim of how people have played the game in general. I mean, like way back in 2012 or so, when we had stock JLV traction on all Supercross tracks, the fastest way around the track was to like square off all the corners, like go into it really fast, brake in a straight line, like turn as much as you can, get the bike in a straight line again and accelerate again. And then there was an era of like the Burkeen era, when Burkeen used to be like hot shit in the game. Now he's just hot shit on the track in real life on his two-stroke. Shout out Matty B. Where he would just like fully rail every single bowl turn, like high gear, bogging it, keeping 100% traction. That's a technique that I kind of adopted when I was playing. That worked really well for me as well. And I don't actually know where we're at these days. I don't watch too much of the Supercross side of things. I guess with the introduction of the road system, you probably can't cut down too well in the corners anymore. You probably have to kind of like filter into that rut and rail the turn to the best of your ability. Which is a shame. It'd be nice if there was still multiple ways of getting around the track fast. I remember in... what season was it? It was like... want to say it was like even like 2016. Might have been maybe 2016, 2015, 2016. I was watching, this was like Pro RF Supercross series, and it was between Matt Burkeen and Dade Honeywell in the 250 class. And every single round, they would always go like neck and neck, like constantly battling each and every race. Like, it was such a good championship overall. But you couldn't have two people with more different ways of playing the game if you tried. Dade was that sort of person that would go in, light the back end up, spin the back end around and drift around the bowl corners. Obviously, Burkeen was like tracking his way around the track, being really smooth and high gear and bogging it. Yet both styles worked and both were pretty comparable in terms of speed. And I think that's one of the best things about this game as a whole, is that there's more than one way of playing it. Whereas on MX bikes and, I mean, to be fair, most other motocross games like Monster Energy, Supercross, Legends, there's one way of going fast, like one way that works. And I think as well, that's probably why Sims stood the test of time. You know, you can really experiment with different riding styles as such. You can be someone that maybe you sit down loads, maybe you stand up loads, maybe you keep traction, maybe you drift everywhere. There's multiple ways of getting it done. It really comes down to how much time and effort you want to put into developing your own particular skill. These days it's changed a little bit, but I think that's just due to how the tracks are built and the road kind of limiting being able to just like do stuff like that, like just jam on the front brake, quickly spin the back end around and get going again. Can't do that too much if there's a massive like 4 foot deep rut in the corner. Like, you just spin around like that, get going, cheeky little seat bounce. Oh, it's so nice. It's fresh, and I feel like I should go back and play some of the really old sim tracks, even some of the old stock JLV ones. And I mean, feel free to let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in me doing a public live stream on sim at some point, and just going on the stock track servers. You know, I don't own my own sim server. It's not like bikes where you can just load it up and host it based off your own internet, unless you want to go through the really complicated like Hamachi route, for example. I'm not doing that. But yeah, if I can load up stock tracks anytime, they're always free and unpopulated, get a bunch of guys in, and then there's no reason why none of you should have the tracks, because they all come with the game. But yeah, overall, I'm very, very happy with this track. I think both the Supercross track and the Motocross track are really, really enjoyable. Looks pretty enough, considering that it is sim at the end of the day. Like, again, JLV, please fix, please please give us a way of having better sim graphics. And then yeah, if anyone knows the reason why my reshade might not be working, if anyone else has had that sort of issue before and overcome it in some way, please do let me know. I'd be very, very grateful. And I think that'll do it from me. Hope you've had a good viewing experience. Please do drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'd greatly appreciate it. Comment for the algorithm. I would be a very, very happy boy. And have a lovely rest of the day. Whatever you're up to, I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.